Hey guys, Mike coming back. This time I'm going to do a video response for Sconnie Tradition. I saw he's doing a giveaway or contest. Very kind of you, Scott, to do so. I don't do a lot of responses, I do some, but I thought it was an interesting topic for a change, not to do so much with sports cards. He wanted us to talk about family history and stories from the family. Um, I'm quite a Revolutionary War buff in addition to collecting cards. I'm a big George Washington fan as far as I read a lot of books concerning him and the Revolution itself. Just love that period of time. Um, I think we did something special then. Um, but I always love family history too. I'm big into family genealogy. I always tried to tie them together if I could. I was lucky after a few years of doing research, I found a family member. Uh, my last name is Shane. The family member was named Summers, and he actually did a book on the family, and it actually did a lot of the work for me. So I was very fortunate in that. Uh, I did the Ancestry's DNA testing. If you haven't done that, I'd highly recommend it. It's really interesting to get the results back and see if it's what you think. Sometimes it is. I've heard a lot. Sometimes it's quite different from some people. So when I got that back between England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, that was like over 80% of my DNA match. So quite a bit right from that area. Almost 70% of that was from England. A little bit of Germany and France, and I think Swiss thrown in there too. So I was kind of surprised. I thought it'd be a little more diverse than that, but it's. I always thought of my family as being Irish and my mom's side being Scottish, which so apparently that is true to some extent, but more probably English. From based on the history I've done, we came over probably in the early 1700s. It looks like they lived in Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, quite a bit. My great times five grandfather, Francis Shane, fought in the French and Indian War. As it war before the Revolution, about 20 years or so before the Revolution, um, as the English colonies here were trying to, France was causing a lot of trouble in the western parts of the territory, and they had the Indians fighting with them, attacking English settlements and stuff, going west from the 13 colonies. Um, my great Francis, my relative, was in the French and Indian War. I've got books written. It's got mentions him specifically as one of his brothers under a certain Captain Cressip that fought there, who wrote a journal and discussed them. I've always tried to relate them to the Revolutionary War. In 1775, when Washington was in Boston, uh, from Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill fame, um, the group that Cressop commanded under the French and Indian War went to Boston, some of them didn't. He does mention in his group two Shane brothers that were sharpshooters in his group, which I'm sure one of them would have been Francis. Um, Talking about them doing target shooting and such, which I thought was pretty cool. And something I've enjoyed over the years, off and on. And it doesn't mention specifically that he was specifically went to Boston to join in the Revolution. I do know in the next year in 1776 he led an expedition down the Ohio River from Pittsburgh, or Fort Pitt it was called before it became Pittsburgh. And he tried to settle here in Kentucky near Louisville. Uh, and they tried to, back then, if you improved land, you essentially owned it. They tried to clear some land and build some log cabins, but the Indians chased them off that year, 1776. They did come back later in the 1780s. He came here permanently. Kentucky was not a state until 1792. So he settled here, from what I can read, probably in the mid 1780s, maybe a little earlier than that. So, and that's here in Louisville, and I still live in Louisville. My family has all many years. Well, it's been over, I guess, this, what we're looking at 240 some years now, 230 some years now. So it's pretty amazing, really, to think that your family's been here since before the state became before Kentucky became a state. But just some of the history of my family. We've been here ever since. So I'm very interested. One of his grandsons served, or I guess his great grandson served in the Civil War here out of Louisville. So I've always very been into family history and such, and it's very fun to look into that sort of thing. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys, and I'm interested in seeing if any other stories people have got. Just like I said, I find it really fun to listen to. So interested to see what comes about. But thanks, and you all have a great day. Thank you, Scott, for this contest. Great idea. Talk to you later.